Welcome back, and thanks for following along so far in all the episodes. Today we're going to be going over the battery relocation for this Ford diesel. Now this is only done on the Ford diesel trucks currently. It is the only one that doesn't have enough room to put the batteries back underneath the hood. So the VMAC system, the VMAC kit comes with a relocation to move them underneath the driver's side door, underneath the cab. Obviously you can mount these wherever you want to. You might just have to change the cable lengths. The system comes complete with cables, battery boxes, mounts, and everything. So we're going to go over that today in its entirety and where they mount. Something to note, they're not going to work with factory steps a lot of times. If you got the Ford factory steps, you have to modify the steps or remove them and put something else on. What I have found is the tube steps work very well. It's pretty inexpensive. Buy the set of tube steps to put on it. It's like $150, $200 at the most, and it'll save you the amount of hours of labor that you have to do to modify the steps. However, let's just go ahead and go over the kit here. I went ahead and sub-assembled one box, and it's really hard to tell, but got the brackets and everything on it. That's going to be the front box, okay? And the system is, the fastener pack is laid out between battery box A and battery box B, which is front and rear. Okay, the front box will be mounted in front of the first cross member. The back bracket's right in front of the first cross member. The rear box, however, is going to mount over the top of the parking brake cable bracket. And you'll see that based on the notch in it. I don't know that you can tell from way over there. All your cables are here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to mount the first box in. And then we're going to take the box out. We're just going to leave the brackets in. Then we'll put the second set of brackets in. And then we'll put the batteries in the boxes, hoist them up underneath, connect them up, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Again, most of this is underneath the truck. You may not get the best video quality, but we're going to give it the best shot we can. As usual, I appreciate everybody watching, following along. Please give me a comment, subscribe to anything, just to let me know you were here. And if you have any questions, please contact us. We're under the truck now, as you can tell. Battery box, front battery box is here. Bolts are stuck in. Pull your harness back away is the easiest thing I found to do. Away from the chassis a little bit. It's probably not going to be easy to see this. But there's a little spot here and right there that you can get the bolt through. Once you get it slid up in there, alright, bolts are across the top of the frame. Now take your brackets here, and there is a difference between the two. They have a part number on them. What I think is they're actually backwards in the manual. Don't tell somebody I said that, but I think this one goes on the rear and this one goes on the front from my experience. However, follow the manual and may be updated by the time you guys see this. Rear strap goes on back here. And then the front strap's on the other side. Once you, and I'll go ahead and do this, but once you get that bolted up, you're actually going to take the battery box back off again. So you can see how there's very little clearance here. Usually you don't have to do anything on the front one, but the rear one has to have some clearancing done on the tube step, but we'll go through that later. As you can tell, it's all bolted up. Let me see if I can slide under here and see it. Not a lot of room to see in here, but you can see it up in there. The bottom one, and one here, and the one up here. Yep, lay it again. Most of the time you have to do those with a wrench. It does take a 15 and a 16 millimeter. Okay. Now, to take this battery box back down is fairly simple. Loosen this bolt and the two bolts on the other side and take this top one out. Once you do that, it'll just slide over and pull off. And got the top bolt out here. All of the three are loose. See if I can do this with one hand. Battery box is on the ground. You can see how you still have three bolts in it that are loose. When you go to put it back up in there, you push it over the holes, slide it down, and then put the top bolt in and it cannot come out. It'll actually have straps on it to connect right here. So when you do need to change the batteries in the future, it'll let down, straps will hold it. You take one strap out, set it on the ground, pull the battery. The front one, the rear right here, is a little bit easier because you got a little bit more room to work. Set up in there over the top of the parking brake, and the parking brake will hold it. Get your bolts ready. Always confirm that you're not sitting on any harnesses or metal brake lines or anything above it. Once you get it up there, put your brackets on the rear, tighten them up, and you're good to go with this one. After you got your brackets in, the next thing you'll do is put in your master disconnect. Now there's a fastener pack over there for this, but it's pretty self-explanatory where it's going to go in the book. Got two holes here, a little square hole in it, and that's where this is going to mount. So you take your two clips, okay, and those go inside the frame. You got two bolts, and again, well, that's a lot. Put a little Loctite on each one. Take your clips. Slide it in. Master disconnect goes in just like this. Now if you have a factory skid plate, you will have to remove it to put this on, and then you'll be able to put it back on again. You won't have to leave it off. Alright. Your master disconnect is installed. Now we're going to go through the installing the battery into the battery box. Hopefully I don't block the camera more than I do. I'm going to try to stand to the side. First thing you do is make sure your clip is lined up with a hole. Take your battery with terminals towards the rear or towards the chassis side, put in. You can see this, how it's got a taper on one side. You can see it that way. The taper goes here. What I like to do is just lean it back a little bit. Get it started. You don't have to get carried away with it, just enough to get it in there. Alright, from here, you got a negative and a positive. It's got to be connected. Now they're both going to go out one side, and it'll be opposite of the rear for the rear battery box. So right now, for the front battery box, which one we have now, we've got the longer negative cable and the shorter positive cable. First things first, before you install these, take some electrical tape and cover the ends. I do this for both cables until they're ready to be connected. really hard to pull electrical tape off of gloves. Alright, dielectric grease. Whether you believe it or not, you make that decision on your own. VMAC does recommend it. Apply it directly to the terminals. The only thing I do is I rub it in a little bit on the sides, top. Again, make your own professional choice there. Take the cable. If you're watching this, you most likely know how to hook up a battery cable, but we're going to go through it anyway. The negative. For them, and it runs out the same side as well. Once you got those put in, take your lid, get your 2 bolts with a 10mm. Alright, battery box is assembled. You still have these 2 bolts, but those are actually what's going to hold these cables to the bracket, and you will see that when I get them underneath the truck. Do the rear the exact opposite way. Put them in there, just the cables come this way, battery box. The positive cables will hook to your master disconnect that we put under the chassis already, and then you'll run a cable from the master disconnect up to the starter. Hardest part about this is how much they weigh. So if they've got 2 people, better to use them. And I also suggest not being on a creeper. Okay. Now you can hook these up first if you choose to, and it'll help hang it so you can get your arm underneath it. What I found, if I've got to pick it up that far, I'm just going to pick it up the whole way. Go ahead and tell you the mechanic who has to replace these will probably curse you. And if that mechanic's you, then sorry. Once you get it in there, don't put your head under it like that. Your top bolt isn't here. Here's the one that keeps it from coming out, really. Put it in first. These are all 15 millimeter. Hey, first one's in. Hook goes in here. Take in a little bit more Loctite. And this is your safety cables. These are your catch cables. I don't think they're really called safety cables, but that's what they work good for. And that one is a 13 millimeter. One on each side, and the battery, front battery, is mounted in there. If you've been following along at this point, it's in the book, it's to the point of hooking up the main battery cable, the 1 aught cable, onto the starter. Now I'm looking up from the bottom of the truck, but you see the battery cables coming here to the starter. There's a plastic cover right over the end of it that you can pop off. Alright, let me get my hands in here. There's really no easy way to show this. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it with the camera. There it goes. Hey. See the plastic piece that comes off? I had to confirm what size it is, but it is a 15 millimeter. And what I found, a stubby 15 ratchet wrench works about as good as anything does to get in here. Okay, just depends on what you're trying to do. But once you get it broke loose, you're going to take the nut off of it, and you're going to put your battery cable on it that's supplied for the kit. Once that battery cable's on, you're going to route it down, and you're going to mount these clips here on the different fasteners of the bell housing. So you're going to put it here with the cable run through it, into this one, and into this one. And then you're going to route it up over the frame with your negative cable. Alright, now you can see how I've got it put across the bell housing. Clamps all the way up and over the frame. Goes over the frame. Because between the cab mount and the cab, and then over the top of the battery boxes, that's going to come out right here on our master disconnect and the ground cable we put in. So here's your ground here, and this will be the master disconnect. You can go ahead and put one of the fasteners on this one, tighten it down, because the other two cables go over top of here. So this is where you stop for the actual battery relocation, because until we get the charger, cooler, and everything put back in, we're not going to hook the batteries back up. This should wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please comment, subscribe. We appreciate it.